From Wikipedia, The Free Encyclopedia, by Shakir Mumtaz, January 2017. Morality based on common sense. Can common sense be trusted? Ethical egoism says that one person's common sense may be another person's naive platitude. It is also called revisionist theory, for it declares that our common sense moral views may be mistaken, therefore, need to be changed. Morality predicates every facet of human life. It has always been, fervently, debated by the scholars and thinkers of almost all the societies, as to what constitutes morality, what should be its source and how its parameters should be determined, and so on. I have therefore embarked on this interesting but multifarious topic to explore, by consulting various perspectives and sources, and present a cogent picture for the readers, to make up their own mind, after weighing for and against reasons and arguments. Modern morality, or moral philosophy, has a rich and fascinating history. A great many thinkers have approached the subject from a wide variety of perspectives and have produced theories that both attract and repel the thoughtful people. Almost all the classical theories developed by philosophers of undoubted genius are, however, vulnerable to crippling objections. Hence, one is left wondering what to believe. Derek Parfit, Reasons and Persons 1984 put it very aptly as non-religious ethics, morality, is the youngest and least advanced. Thomas Hobbes, foremost British philosopher of 17th century, tried, unsuccessfully, to provide an alternative to divine philosophy. One, by arguing as follows. Suppose we take away all the props for morality. We assume, first, that there is no God to issue commands and reward virtues, and second, that there are no moral facts built into the nature of things. Moreover, we deny that there is any sort of universal altruism built into human nature. We see people as essentially motivated to pursue their own interests. If we cannot appeal to God, moral facts, or natural altruism, is there anything left on which morality might be found? After all this, he suggests an alternate, in the form of social contract and commonly accepted mechanism, government, to enforce the terms of the contract. Then he conjectures an untenable state of nature, insinuating absolute chaos, to support his hypothesis. State of nature too is governed by the laws of nature, and laws of nature not only describes how things are but also how things ought to be as well. Things are always as they ought to be, solemnly serving their natural purposes. Theory of the law of nature. He replaced God with altruism and moral facts, and his command and control by an indispensable government. Mundane and temporal end result suggested was the gain of the benefits of social living. This outrageous endeavor could simply be classed as a blatant Hobbesian intellectual egoism, dishonesty/arrogance. After close scrutiny of this hypothesis, Thomas Hobbes is also found to be guilty of defying the minimum conception of morality. By the way, Islamic theology makes use of minimum conception with respect to the performance of basic obligatory rituals, ensuring the salvation of the believers in the hereafter. It might be of interest for the readers to know that morality is not an issue as such in most parts, especially in predominantly monotheistic and polytheistic societies, of the world at all. Centuries-old religious ethos shape their cultural traditions and social practices in consonance, and the life goes on smoothly. The issue of morality, for the most part, arises when an equitable and just resolution is sought in the face of conflicting interests. It is generally thought that the formulation of morality started by the Greeks. This treatise, therefore, would start from there, foregoing the issue of the actual origin of morality, which according to some sources goes back to Prophet Adam. Greek philosophers such as Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and some other eminent scholars resorted to reason in formulating the moral laws of their time, while counting on the character to establish the virtuous traits of a man. Questions were framed as: what is the good of man? What traits of character make one a good man? This was happening 400 years before the time of Jesus Christ. With the spread of Christianity, however, a new idea of lawgiver and obedience to his commands was introduced. St. Augustine, the most influential and prominent thinker of the 4th century, however, distrusted the reason and taught that virtuous life rests in the unwavering subordination to the commandments. From here on, when the Christian scholars, philosophers discussed the issue of virtues, it was within the context of divine law, and theological virtues including obedience occupying the central place. On the contrary, Greeks gave reason the center stage. They viewed the reason as the source of practical wisdom. Virtuous life for them was inseparable from the life of reason. After Renaissance, however, morality took another turn, and philosophers stopped turning to the Greek way of reasoning or Christian way of obedience to divine law, but to its secular equivalent called moral law. Divine fiat was replaced by human reason, and by following its directive would decide which actions are right. The question was changed from what traits of character make a good person to what is the right thing to do. Virtue was replaced by secular rightness of actions and obligations, thereby promoting the element of individualism and self-interest, selfishness. Human reason gave rise to the conception of hubristic ought as a standard for most advantageous actions, petrifying the human reason with inconsistency, hence similar reasoning was acceptable in one situation, but not in the other. Later moral theories from the 17th century onward, such as ethical egoism, utilitarianism, social contract theory, all were developed and promoted in the same vein of individualism and self-centeredness. Utilitarianism, in particular, proved to be the harbinger of religion-divested morality. A theory presented by David Hume, 1711-1776, formalized by Jeremy Bentham, 1748-1832, vehemently advocated by John Stuart Mill, 1806-1873, and his son James Mill. After the 18th and 19th century series of upheavals, America was a newly developing country and traditional morality was up in the air. Bentham's conception of religion-divested morality, in conscious opposition to Christianity, especially for those escaping the Church of England's persecution, proved to be a boon. He argued morality is not a matter of pleasing God, nor is it a matter of faithfulness to abstract rules. Morality is nothing more than the attempt to bring about as much happiness as possible in this world. Bentham was also given the assignment of reforming the laws and constitution of England along utilitarian lines. Needless to say that despite huge influence, utilitarianism had severe flaws. One of its more developed forms, act utilitarianism, recognized it to be a radical doctrine that implied that many of our moral feelings may be mistaken. Ethical egoism, as a revisionist theory, also asserted the same theme. An Australian philosopher J.J.C. Smart, 1961, published a monograph, challenging the common sense, morality, as it cannot be trusted. His assertion challenges us to rethink matters that we have taken for granted. To accentuate the point further, here is the opinion of a Swedish sociologist Gunnar Myrdal, which he gave after his classic study, American Dilemma, in 1944. There must be still other countless errors of the same sort that no living man can yet detect, because of the fog within which our type of Western cultures envelops us. Bentham and Mill were leading a revolution as radical as Marx and Darwin of the 19th century. To understand the radicalness of their theory, an excerpt is quoted as "Gone are all references to God or to abstract moral rules written in the heavens. Morality is no longer to be understood as faithfulness to some divinely given code or to some set of inflexible rules. The concept of individualistic worldly happiness, known as hedonism, was promoted. Mill's introduction of the notion individual as sovereign pushed it even further. Kantian morality, although, hovers around religious lines, but he seems to have circumvented God and religion, probably to prove that besides all-encompassing God's commands notion, there are rational and logical grounds on which divine morality could be asserted with the same potency. Kant, however, abjured the serpent windings of the utilitarian theory because, he said, the theory is incompatible with human dignity. God confers dignity to human, Kant 1770. His formulation of hypothetical imperatives versus categorical imperatives exposes the vainness of modern morality. It can, therefore, safely be deduced that most of these religion-divested moral theories provide only plausible answers to the difficult questions, but lack the potency and conviction of divine morality, providing definitive solutions built in the rigor of observance of its rules and rituals. All classic theorists, needless to say, hold not only opposing but critical views about divine morality. Recent thinking on morality is ready to take yet another turn. Philosophers are debunking the moral law theory as bankrupt and advocating radical ideas to go back to virtue-based Aristotelian morality to salvage the subject. This idea was first floated by a British philosopher G.E.M. Anscombe in 1958, suggesting that modern moral philosophy is misguided because it rests on an incoherent notion of law without a lawgiver. She further elaborated that the very concepts of obligation, duty, and rightness, on which the modern philosophers have concentrated their attention, are inextricably linked to this nonsensical idea. Therefore, she argued, we should return to the Aristotelian approach, and virtue should once again take the center stage. Philosophers in this camp share the opinion that virtue-based morality is superior to the other kind of religion-divested morality because of the following reasons. 1. Moral motivation. Virtuous morality is appealing because it provides a natural and attractive account of moral motivation, while the other kind of morality falters on this account. It can be explained in terms of an example quoted in the Journal of Philosophy in 1976, where the value of merit of morality was juxtaposed duty. In this case, a patient was visited by some friend. That made the patient delighted, but when he found out that the visitor was just doing his duty and did not really come for him, the visit turned cold and bereft of moral value. The desire to do the right thing for the right reason and in doing it out of an abstract sense of duty is not the same. 2. Ideals of impartiality. Virtuous morality can accommodate partialities very well since it recognizes that some virtues are partial and some are not. It also recognizes that the love of family and friends is an inescapable feature of a morally good life. Ideals of impartiality in modern moral philosophy, however, do not add up. John Stuart Mill put the point very succinctly when writing about utilitarianism that utilitarianism requires the moral agent to be as strictly impartial as a benevolent and disinterested spectator. A mother loves her children and cares for them in a way that she does not care for other children. She is partial to them through and through. The same is the case with friends and family members. 3. Divine morality provides a pleasing practical fit between a. Impartiality of reason. b. Adherence to set rules for life, serving everyone's interest. c. Fulfillment of our natural inclination and moral duty to care about others. Making morally behaving a natural dispensation. Morality without religion. Ethics or morals emanating from without religion would be whimsical, lacking the unity of command and universality, veracity, and the force of authenticity. Each group of people will tend to produce a set of rules as per its own whims, which may not suit the cultural or temperamental taste of the other, hence conflicting. But if they do not respond to you, then know that they only follow their own desires, whims. And who is more astray than one who follows his desire without guidance from Allah? Indeed, Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people. Q. 2850. 4. An anthropocentric view of Aristotle, and of many philosophers of the ancient, which modern philosophers and scientists vehemently refute, has been categorically asserted in Quran. This assertion, in the same vein, also refutes the accusation of the human being as vain species. https://shakir2.wordpress.com/2016/03/21/ The anthropocentric character of the universe, special status of man and yet his denial of God. Conclusion: a trajectory of traits of both the schools of philosophy has been presented above, making it easy for the readers to weigh and decide for themselves. 1. Divine philosophy means virtue/religion-based philosophy. 2. Always serving their purpose regardless of our favorable or unfavorable understanding of their operations. 3. Moral philosophy and modern morality are interchangeably used. https://shakir2.wordpress.com/2019/04/03/Sharia punishments of Islam/